$10 is all he's worth now, the kennel manager said with a shrug. Take him or leave him. Owen Maddox stood quietly behind the chain-link fence, staring at the aging German Shepherd lying alone in the far corner of the kennel. The dog didn't bark. He didn't pace like the others. He simply watched. His dark eyes followed every movement in the yard with a focus that felt almost human. Around him, younger dogs barked excitedly whenever visitors walked past. Some jumped against the gates. Others wagged their tails desperately, hoping someone would take them home. But not this one. This one remained still, dignified, silent, forgotten. A cold wind swept across the county K-9 training facility outside Helena, Montana. The late afternoon sun hung low over the mountains, casting long shadows across the gravel lot. Owen shifted his weight slightly, his old knee reminding him of injuries earned many years earlier during his military service. Retirement had been quieter than he expected, too quiet. Most days passed with little more than coffee, newspaper headlines, and memories he rarely wanted to revisit. The kennel manager glanced down at a clipboard. Chief, 9 years old, retired police K-9, good record, good health, nobody wants an old working dog. Owen stepped closer to the fence. Chief slowly rose to his feet. For a moment, neither moved. Then the dog approached the gate with calm, measured steps. No excitement, no desperation, just curiosity. Owen crouched carefully. Hey there, partner. Chief stopped inches away. His ears twitched. His gaze remained fixed on Owen's face. Something passed between them in that moment. Something difficult to explain. Owen had seen that look before. Soldiers carried it. Men who had spent years doing difficult jobs and were no longer sure where they belonged afterward. The kennel manager laughed softly. Funny thing is, he was one of the best dogs we ever had. Was? Owen asked. Last few years he changed, became obsessed with an old case, could never let it go. Owen looked back at Chief. What kind of case? The manager shook his head. Nobody knows. Records were sealed years ago. Chief suddenly lowered his head and pressed his nose against the fence. Owen extended a hand. The German Shepherd sniffed it carefully before leaning forward ever so slightly. Trust, small but real. The manager folded his clipboard. Look, mister, if you're interested, he's $10. Otherwise, he'll probably spend the rest of retirement here. Owen reached into his wallet without hesitation. $10. Less than a tank of gas. Less than dinner at a roadside diner. Yet somehow it felt like the most important purchase he'd made in years. 20 minutes later, Chief sat quietly in the passenger seat of Owen's aging pickup truck as they drove away from the facility. Neither seemed bothered by the silence. The mountains rolled past beneath a sky turning orange and gold. For the first time in a long while, Owen didn't feel entirely alone. Then it happened. As they passed the back storage building near the edge of the property, Chief suddenly sprang upright. A deep bark exploded from his chest, once, twice, 3 times. His eyes locked onto a dusty police cruiser parked behind the building. The old dog pressed against the window, so hard his breath fogged the glass. Owen slowed the truck and followed Chief's stare. The cruiser looked abandoned, forgotten, covered in years of dust. But Chief wouldn't look away, and in the fading Montana sunlight, Owen noticed something strange. Taped inside the rear window of that forgotten police car was a weathered evidence file, marked with a faded red number that Chief seemed to recognize immediately. Owen glanced at the abandoned cruiser through his rearview mirror as he pulled onto the shoulder of the road. Chief was still standing rigid in the passenger seat, his eyes fixed on the vehicle behind them. The old dog let out another sharp bark. All right, Owen said. You are trying real hard to tell me something." He turned the truck around and slowly drove back toward the storage yard. The evening air had grown colder. Long shadows stretched across the gravel as Owen parked near the fence. The cruiser sat exactly where it had been before, covered in dust and forgotten beneath years of neglect. Chief jumped out the moment the door opened. For a retired dog, he moved auspiciously fast. His paws carried him directly toward the old vehicle. Owen followed. "What is it, Chief?" The German Shepherd circled the cruiser once, then stopped beside the rear passenger door, his nose pressed against the glass. Owen leaned closer. Inside the window, the faded evidence file was barely visible beneath a layer of dirt. A maintenance worker pushing a cart nearby noticed them. "Can I help you?" he called. Owen pointed toward the cruiser. "How long has that car been sitting here?" The worker laughed. "Longer than I have, maybe 8 years. Nobody touches it." Chief pawed lightly at the door. Once. Twice. Then he sat and stared directly at Owen. "You want inside?" Owen asked. The dog's ears immediately perked up. The worker shook his head. "You are not the first person who asked about that car." Owen looked at him. "Really? Old officers used to talk about it. Something connected to a case that never got solved." Chief suddenly released a low whine. Not fear, frustration. as if he was hearing a conversation he had already lived through years ago. Owen felt a strange chill. "Do you know which case?" The worker lowered his voice. "Not much, just rumors. A missing accountant. Vanished one night. No witnesses, no answers. Eventually everyone stopped talking about it." Chief immediately barked. The worker blinked. Well, that got his attention. Owen stared at the dog. "Missing accountant?" Another bark. Stronger this time. The worker stepped back slightly. "Looks like he knows something." For a moment, nobody spoke. The wind rattled a loose sign somewhere in the yard. Then a voice interrupted from behind them. "Chief?" An older man wearing a sheriff's department jacket approached slowly. His gray hair peeked out beneath a baseball cap. The moment Chief saw him, his tail moved for the first time. Not much, just once. The man's eyes widened. "I do not believe it." He crouched carefully. "Buddy, I thought I would never see you again." Owen stepped forward. "You know him?" "Know him?" the man replied. "I was his handler." Chief moved closer and gently pressed his head against the man's hand. Years seemed to disappear from the dog's face. "Name is Frank Holloway," the man said. "We worked together almost 6 years." Owen nodded. "Owen Maddox." Frank looked toward the abandoned cruiser, and his expression changed immediately. The warmth vanished from his face. That car should have been destroyed years ago. Owen noticed it at once. "Why?" Frank remained silent for several seconds. Chief sat between them, watching carefully. Finally, Frank sighed. "Because the last time Chief rode in that cruiser was the night everything went wrong." Owen felt his stomach tighten. "What happened?" Frank looked directly at the dog. Chief never broke eye contact. The old handler swallowed hard before speaking. "That file in the window contains the last report from an investigation Chief never stopped tracking. And if he is reacting like this after all these years, then something inside that report still matters." Then Chief suddenly turned away from them and locked onto a small storage building at the far end of the yard. His body became completely still. Every muscle tightened. And for the second time that evening, the old dog looked as though he had just remembered something everyone else had forgotten. Frank's eyes never left the storage building, neither did Chief's. The evening sky had darkened into deep shades of blue and gray, and a cold Montana breeze swept across the yard. Owen folded his arms. "You are telling me a retired dog remembers something from years ago?" Frank nodded slowly. "Not just something. Chief never forgot anything important." The German Shepherd suddenly started walking, not running, not pulling, walking with purpose toward the building at the far end of the property. Owen and Frank exchanged a look before following. Gravel crunched beneath their boots as they crossed the yard. The maintenance worker watched from a distance, curiosity written all over his face. Chief stopped outside a faded metal door. The paint was peeling. A rusted padlock hung from the handle. The dog lowered his nose to the ground and began sniffing carefully around the entrance. "What is this place?" Owen asked. Frank squinted at the building. "Evidence storage, at least it used to be." Chief let out a short bark, then another. Frank's expression tightened. "That is his alert." Owen looked down at the dog. "Alert for what?" "Something connected to the investigation." Owen glanced at the locked door. "You think there is evidence inside?" Frank rubbed his jaw. "Maybe. Or maybe Chief remembers someone coming here." For nearly a minute, the dog continued searching the ground. Then he stopped beside a small concrete step near the wall. His tail became rigid. His ears stood high. He scratched once, twice, then sat down. Frank inhaled sharply. "That is not random." Owen stepped closer. "What does it mean?" "It means he found the exact spot he wanted." The maintenance worker finally approached. "Everything okay over here?" Frank pointed toward the concrete step. "Do you have a flashlight?" 10 minutes later, the three men stood around the spot, illuminated by a bright beam of light. The concrete appeared ordinary at first. Then Owen noticed something strange. A small metal corner barely visible beneath years of dirt and leaves. "Hold on." He crouched and brushed away debris with his hand. More metal appeared, a rectangular shape, hidden, forgotten. The maintenance worker frowned. That was not there before. Chief immediately stood and moved closer. His breathing quickened. Owen carefully pulled upward. The object resisted at first. Then it came free. A weathered metal box no larger than a shoebox. Everyone froze. "Well," the maintenance worker whispered, "that is definitely not supposed to be there." Owen examined the box. No markings, no labels, just rust and age. Chief never looked away from it. Frank's face had turned pale. "I remember this." Owen looked up. "What?" Frank swallowed hard. The night the investigation ended, Chief kept trying to return to this building. Nobody understood why. "And now?" Owen asked. Frank stared at the box. "Now I think he was trying to tell us something." Owen slowly lifted the lid. Inside rested a single photograph sealed in a plastic sleeve. The image showed a smiling man standing beside a pickup truck near a lakeside cabin. Written across the bottom in faded black ink were 4 words: "Find the second file." Nobody spoke. The wind seemed to disappear. Even the maintenance worker looked unsettled. Owen turned the photograph over. There was nothing else, no explanation, no date, no name. Then Chief suddenly spun around and faced the abandoned police cruiser across the yard. A low whine escaped his throat. Frank followed the dog's gaze and his eyes widened. "Oh no," he whispered. The second file was never in this box. Owen looked at him. Where was it? Frank pointed toward the cruiser. It was inside that car. The 3 men stood silently beside the abandoned cruiser. The photograph felt heavier now. Owen looked from the image to the dusty vehicle. If the second file was in there, then why is it still sitting here after all these years? Frank shook his head slowly. Because everyone believed the investigation was over. Chief walked directly to the rear passenger door and placed his nose against the handle. He looked back at Owen, then he touched the handle again. "You have got to be kidding me," Owen muttered. The maintenance worker pulled a ring of keys from his pocket. "County property, let us find out." A few moments later, the old lock clicked. The rear door creaked open. Dust drifted through the flashlight beams. The interior looked untouched. Old paperwork covered the floor. A cracked radio microphone hung from the dashboard. Chief immediately jumped inside. His movements became focused and deliberate. He sniffed every inch of the back seat before moving toward the floorboard. Frank leaned closer. That is exactly how he worked during searches. Chief pushed his nose beneath the rear seat. Then he froze. His tail stiffened. A low whine escaped his throat. Owen crouched beside him. "What did you find, partner?" Reaching underneath, Owen felt something taped to the metal frame. His fingers brushed a sealed envelope. Carefully, he pulled it free. The yellowed paper was covered in dust. Across the front were handwritten words. "Open only if the truth is ever need." Nobody spoke. Even the maintenance worker seemed nervous now. Owen looked at Frank. Recognized the handwriting? Frank's eyes widened. "That belongs to Detective Raymond Cole, the lead investigator?" "Yes." Owen carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a thin folder containing several documents and a folded map. Chief sat beside him, watching every movement. The first page revealed a name: Daniel Mercer, the same smiling man from the photograph. Beneath it was a short note from Detective Cole. "If you are reading this, then Chief was right. Follow the lake map. The answer was never in town." Owen exchanged a look with Frank. "What does that mean?" Frank rubbed his forehead. "I have no idea. Mercer disappeared 11 years ago. We searched everywhere." The maintenance worker pointed toward the map. "Maybe not everywhere." The map showed a lake nearly 60 miles outside Helena. A red circle marked a small cabin on the northern shore. Chief immediately stood up. He placed one paw directly on the circled location. Frank stared at him in disbelief. "You remember this place?" Chief barked once. Owen felt a strange excitement growing inside him. For the first time, the puzzle seemed to have a direction. He folded the map carefully. "Looks like we are taking a road trip tomorrow." Frank nodded. "I am coming with you." The maintenance worker laughed nervously. "After tonight, I kind of want to know how this ends, too." As they prepared to leave, Chief suddenly turned toward the front seat of the cruiser. His ears rose again. Owen followed the dog's gaze. Wedged between the dashboard and windshield was a small metal badge. Frank's face lost all color. "That cannot be here." Owen picked it up. The engraved name read Detective Raymond Cole. Then he noticed something else. Scratched into the back of the badge were 4 words. "He is watching the cabin." The cold Montana wind swept across the yard as every man slowly looked down at the map in Owen's hands. The next morning arrived beneath a pale gray sky. Owen's pickup rolled north along a winding 2-lane highway, while pine-covered hills stretched across the horizon. Chief sat upright beside him, staring ahead as though he already knew where they were going. Frank followed behind in his own truck. Neither man had slept much. The words scratched onto the back of Detective Cole's badge refused to leave their minds. "He is watching the cabin." After nearly 90 minutes on the road, the lake finally appeared between the trees. Calm water reflected the morning light like polished glass. Owen slowed the truck. "Beautiful place," he said quietly. Chief immediately became alert. His ears rose, his nose pressed against the window. Frank parked beside them near an abandoned boat launch. "The cabin should be another half-mile up that shoreline," he said while unfolding the old map. They started walking. The trail was narrow and overgrown. Fallen branches covered parts of the path. Chief led the way without hesitation. Several times he stopped to sniff the ground before continuing forward. "He remembers this place," Frank said. "There is no doubt anymore." Owen nodded. "The question is why?" 20 minutes later they saw it. The cabin stood alone among tall pines overlooking the lake. Weathered wood, broken shutters, a sagging porch. It looked untouched for years. Chief suddenly stopped. His body became rigid. "What is it, boy?" Owen asked. The German shepherd turned toward the woods east of the cabin, his gaze locked onto something invisible between the trees. Frank followed the direction. "You see some?" Owen asked. "No." Chief let out a low whine, then another, the same sound he had made near the evidence file. "Something here matters," Owen said. They approached the cabin carefully. The front door hung slightly open. Inside, dust covered nearly every surface. Old furniture remained exactly where it had been left. A fishing rod leaned against the wall. A faded calendar still hung in the kitchen. The final marked month was 11 years old. "This place froze in time," Owen murmured. Frank pointed toward a framed photograph on the mantel. "That is Daniel Mercer." The smiling man from the photograph looked back at them. Beside him stood a woman and a young girl. Owen studied the picture. He had a family. Frank nodded sadly. Nobody ever found answers for them. Chief moved through the cabin room by room. Suddenly they heard claws scraping wood upstairs. Owen hurried toward the staircase. "Chief?" They found him standing inside a small bedroom. The dog was staring at a section of wall beside an old bookshelf. His tail remained perfectly still. Owen stepped closer. "What are you trying to show us?" Chief touched the wall with his nose. Then he pawed once against the floor beneath it. Frank's eyes narrowed. "Move the shelf." Together they carefully pulled the bookshelf aside. Behind it was a narrow metal panel built into the wall. Owen stared in disbelief. "You have got to be kidding me." There was no handle. No visible lock, only a small brass plate attached to the center. Owen brushed away years of dust. 4 words appeared beneath the dirt. "For Chief." For several seconds, nobody spoke. Even the wind outside seemed to disappear. Then Chief stepped forward and pressed his nose directly against the hidden panel. A sharp metallic click echoed from inside the wall. The metallic click echoed through the hidden wall. Nobody moved. Owen looked at Frank. Frank looked at Chief. The German shepherd remained perfectly still, his nose pressed against the panel, as though he had been waiting years for that sound. "Tell me that just happened," Owen said quietly. "It happened," Frank replied. Owen carefully pushed against the metal door. At first nothing moved. Then, with a low grinding sound, the panel slowly swung inward. A narrow compartment appeared inside the wall. Dust filled the air. Chief stepped back but never took his eyes off what was hidden within. Owen aimed his flashlight inside. Good Lord. The compartment contained several waterproof document tubes, a small lockbox, and a leather notebook. Everything appeared deliberately preserved. Frank removed the notebook first. The cover was cracked with age. Inside the front page was a handwritten message. "If Chief ever leads someone here, trust him." Frank froze. "That is Detective Cole's handwriting." Owen leaned closer. "Read the rest." Frank slowly turned the page. The notebook contained detailed entries written during the final weeks of the investigation. Dates, locations, interviews, observations. Then one sentence made both men stop. Mercer discovered something that made him afraid. He said someone powerful wanted the lake property. "Lake property?" Owen asked. Frank nodded slowly. "That never appeared in any official report." Chief suddenly walked to the lockbox and sat beside it. "You want us to open that too?" Owen asked. The dog's ears lifted immediately. Frank laughed softly. "I think that is a yes." The lockbox was not locked. Inside they found property records, survey maps, and several photographs of the shoreline surrounding the cabin. Owen spread the papers across an old table. "This does not look like a missing person investigation anymore." Frank studied one of the maps. A red circle appeared on the eastern side of the lake. "Look at this." Owen moved closer. The circle surrounded a section of forest, nearly 3 miles from the cabin. Next to it were handwritten words. "Original survey marker. Verify before transfer." "Transfer of what?" Owen asked. Frank shook his head. "I do not know." Chief suddenly stood and moved toward one photograph lying at the bottom of the box. The image showed Mercer standing beside a wooden survey marker deep in the woods. Owen flipped the photograph over. A message was written on the back. "The truth is buried beneath marker 12. Nobody spoke. The room felt smaller. The mystery was no longer pointing toward people. It was pointing toward a place. Chief touched the photograph with his nose. Then he looked directly at Owen. "You already know where we are going next, do you not?" Owen said. The dog gave a single bark. Frank folded the map carefully. "Marker 12 is on the eastern shore." Owen glanced through the dusty window toward the lake. The afternoon sun was already dropping behind the mountains. "That gives us maybe 2 hours of daylight." Chief headed toward the door immediately. Frank smiled despite himself. Apparently, he thinks that is enough. As they stepped onto the porch, a sudden sound drifted through the trees. An engine. Distant but unmistakable. Owen stopped. "Did either of you expect company?" Frank's expression hardened. "No." The sound grew louder. Somewhere on the far side of the lake, a vehicle had just arrived, and Chief was already staring in that direction. Chief was already moving before Owen could say a word. The German Shepherd trotted down the slope toward the shoreline, his nose working the air. The distant engine echoed across the water once more, before falling silent. Frank looked uneasy. Somebody else knows about this place. Owen adjusted the map under his arm. Then we find marker 12 before they do. They followed Chief along the eastern shore. Pine needles softened their footsteps as the afternoon light faded through the trees. The lake remained calm beside them, but the feeling in the forest had changed. Every sound seemed louder. Every shadow felt longer. 20 minutes later, Chief stopped beside an old wooden post sticking out of the ground. Most of the marker had rotted away, but a faded number was still visible, 11. Owen crouched beside it. "We are close." Chief immediately continued deeper into the woods. Frank studied the map. Marker 12 should be another few hundred yards. The terrain became steeper. Fallen logs and thick brush covered the hillside. Then Chief froze. His ears snapped forward. His body became perfectly still. Owen whispered, "What is it?" The dog stared uphill. A figure moved briefly between the trees before disappearing. Frank saw it too. "Did you see that?" Owen nodded. "Someone is here." Neither man moved. Several seconds passed. Nothing happened. Then a voice called out from the woods. "You are not supposed to be here." An older man stepped into view, wearing a brown jacket and carrying a walking stick. His gray beard looked almost white in the fading light. He stopped when he noticed Chief. "Well, I will be damned." Frank narrowed his eyes. "Do we know you?" The stranger looked at Chief again. "I know that dog." Owen stepped forward. "How?" The man pointed toward the German Shepherd. 11 years ago, I saw him searching these woods every week." Frank exchanged a glance with Owen. "Who are you?" "Name is Walter Pierce. I own the bait shop on the south side of the lake." Chief slowly approached him and sniffed his hand. Walter smiled sadly. "You remember me, do you not?" The dog gave a small wag of his tail. Owen immediately noticed something. "You knew Daniel Mercer." Walter's smile disappeared. Everybody around here knew Daniel. Frank asked quietly, "What happened to him?" Walter looked toward the trees. He found something he was not supposed to find. Owen felt his pulse quicken. "What?" The old man hesitated. "Survey records. Old land records. Daniel believed there was a mistake worth millions of dollars hidden in county archives." Frank frowned. "That does not explain why he vanished." Walter shook his head. "No, but explains why people wanted him to stop asking questions." Chief suddenly barked and ran several yards uphill. Owen hurried after him. The dog stopped beside another weathered survey marker leaning against a large boulder. The faded number 12 was still visible. "This is it," Owen said. Chief immediately began pawing at the ground beside the marker. Once, twice, then again. Frank knelt beside him and brushed away leaves. Something metallic appeared beneath the dirt. Walter stared in disbelief. "That has been here all these years?" Owen carefully uncovered a small steel container buried beside the post. The lid was sealed shut. Chief sat beside it, breathing heavily. Owen slowly opened the container. Inside rested a stack of documents wrapped in plastic and a single photograph. The moment Frank saw the photograph, all color drained from his face. "That cannot be possible." Owen looked down. The image showed Daniel Mercer standing beside Detective Raymond Cole. But they were not alone. A third man stood with them, smiling directly at the camera, and Owen immediately recognized the face. It belonged to the current county commissioner. For several long seconds, nobody spoke. The forest seemed to fall completely silent. Owen stared at the photograph again. The county commissioner, Richard Hale, stood beside Daniel Mercer and Detective Raymond Cole with one arm resting casually on Mercer's shoulder. They looked like old friends. "This does not make sense," Owen said quietly. Hale always claimed he barely knew Mercer. Frank took the photograph and shook his head. Then he lied. Walter leaned closer. "What else is in the container?" Owen carefully unfolded the stack of documents. Most were property surveys and land records, but one file immediately caught his attention. The top page contained signatures from multiple county offices. Beneath them sat a detailed map of the entire lake region. Several parcels had been marked with red circles. Owen frowned. "What am I looking at?" Frank scanned the pages. His eyes widened. "Mineral rights. What?" "The land beneath this lake." Frank pointed toward a series of notes written in the margins. Mercer discovered that a survey mistake had hidden the true ownership of thousands of acres. Whoever controlled these records controlled everything underneath. Walter let out a low whistle. "That could be worth a fortune." Owen continued reading. Then he found a handwritten statement from Detective Cole. He read it aloud. Mercer was preparing to present evidence proving the ownership records had been altered. He feared someone would stop him before the truth became public. Nobody needed to ask who that someone might have been. Chief suddenly stood and began pacing around the clearing. His nose moved through the air, back and forth, searching. Owen noticed the change immediately. He smells something. Frank rose to his feet. Someone is nearby. The German Shepherd moved toward a narrow trail leading away from marker 12. His pace increased. Then he stopped beside a fallen log and began sniffing intensely. Owen followed. A fresh set of tire tracks cut through the soft soil nearby. Walter knelt beside them. These were not here yesterday. Frank looked toward the lake, the vehicle we heard. Chief let out a sharp bark and pulled farther down the trail. Owen hurried after him. The path curved through dense trees before opening into a small clearing overlooking the water. There, parked beside the shoreline, sat a black SUV, empty, recently arrived. "Whoever drove this is still close," Frank said. Owen studied the vehicle, then something caught his eye. A county government parking permit hung from the rearview mirror. Walter stared at it. "You have got to be kidding me." Chief suddenly sprinted toward the edge of the clearing and stopped beside an old wooden dock. He stared across the lake. Everyone followed his gaze. On the opposite shore, partially hidden among the trees, stood another cabin. Smaller, newer. Smoke drifted from its chimney. Frank's face tightened. That cabin belongs to Richard Hale. Owen slowly folded the documents and slipped them into his backpack. "Then I think we finally know why Chief never gave up." The German Shepherd remained fixed on the distant cabin. Then, for the first time since Owen had met him, Chief gave a confident bark that sounded less like a warning and more like the signal of a job finally nearing its end. The sun was beginning to set when Owen, Frank, Walter, and Chief crossed the lake in Walter's small fishing boat. The water glowed gold beneath the evening sky, and the cabin on the far shore grew larger with every passing minute. Chief stood at the bow the entire time, focused on the shoreline ahead. "He knows," Walter said quietly. "Knows what?" Owen asked. Walter smiled that this is the last piece. When they reached the dock, the group stepped onto the shore and followed a short path toward the cabin. Smoke still drifted from the chimney. Someone was home. Frank looked at Owen. "Whatever happens, we do this the right way." Owen nodded. "That is the only way." Before they reached the porch, the front door opened. Richard Hale stepped outside. The county commissioner looked surprised at first. Then his eyes dropped to the documents in Owen's hand. The surprise disappeared. "You have been busy," Hale said calmly. Owen stopped a few feet away. Daniel Mercer was trying to expose something, was he not? Hale sighed. "You have no idea how complicated this became." Frank stepped forward. "Then explain it." For several moments, Hale stared at the lake behind them. Finally, he spoke. "The survey records were wrong. Mercer found the mistake. The land belonged to local families, not outside investors. Billions of dollars were at stake. People panicked." "And Mercer?" Owen asked. Hale lowered his head. Mercer refused to stay quiet. Chief suddenly moved beside Owen and sat down. His eyes never left Hale. The commissioner looked at the dog and gave a sad smile. "I remember you. You never stopped looking." Hale slowly reached into his jacket pocket. Everyone tensed. Instead of anything dangerous, he removed a folded envelope. "I have been waiting for this day for 11 years. He handed it to Owen. Inside was a signed statement explaining everything. It detailed the altered records, the pressure from investors, Mercer's discovery, and Detective Cole's efforts to preserve the truth. At the bottom was Hale's signature. "Why keep this?" Owen asked. Hale looked toward Chief. "Because Cole told me one thing before he died." Frank frowned. "What?" Hale smiled sadly. "He said if Chief was still alive, he would eventually find the truth." Silence settled over the shoreline. The years of mystery suddenly felt smaller. The answers had been hidden but never completely lost. Chief had carried the trail longer than anyone imagined possible. Within weeks, state investigators verified the documents. The corrected ownership records were restored. Mercer's family finally received recognition for his discovery. Detective Cole's hidden notes were entered into official archives. And Richard Hale publicly accepted responsibility for keeping the secret buried for so long. On a bright Saturday morning 3 months later, the town gathered near the courthouse lawn. Owen stood beside Chief beneath a new bronze memorial. Frank adjusted his tie and smiled. Walter wiped his eyes. The plaque beneath the statue carried a simple inscription: "To Chief, the dog who never stopped searching." As the crowd applauded, Owen rested a hand on Chief's neck. The old German Shepherd looked up at him with the same calm eyes that had first met his through a kennel fence. "You did it, partner," Owen whispered. Chief's tail moved slowly. Not because he wanted praise, not because he understood ceremonies, but because somewhere deep inside, the mission he had carried for 11 long years was finally complete. And for the first time since Owen had met him, the old dog looked completely at peace. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share it with friends who might enjoy it too. We would love to know where you are watching from. Tell us your city and country in the comments. More heartfelt and unforgettable hero dog stories are already waiting for you. See you in the next one.